The professor, what's happening, man?
I can't help you get tickets to nothing.
That's all
right. That's all right. Bruh, I'm so excited to talk to you. I'm excited to talk to you each week. Yeah, that's facts. We do need Jesus, as the professor's shirt says here.
After watching that game, the Kings need Jesus too.
Can Jesus shoot the three?
Can Jesus give up less than 83 points in a half?
I mean, if he could turn water into wine, he could have stopped Julius Randle last night, because certainly no one in a Kings uniform could do it.
Did anybody want to stop him? I mean,
Jesus was playing against the Kings last night.
Man.
Wait, Randall was
Jesus Randall. But
Jesus
Julius always does that to the Kings. He always comes to Sacramento and puts in work. But yeah, that was, I made the tragic mistake of saying, you know what, the Kings are up 20. Let me check another game out. And then I turn back. I go, oh my God, what's happened?
You left, they were up 20. You came back, they were down 23.
They weren't down 23, but it was the third quarter. I was like, oh, this is not good at all. I mean, yeah.
And the sad part is most of us knew if we turned the channel or went to bed, we were going to come back and tragedy would have struck. And that's what happened to the Kings.
Of course, the bonus is being indoctrinated into Sacramento basketball in the worst way. And he'd never been ejected before last night. I mean,
that's kind of funny. He's been a King for 3 weeks and he got his first ejection after however many years.
Kings have already broke Sabonis.
I'm just like, poor Alvin, like if Lindsay, I'm like, Lindsay doesn't deserve this. Like, no one deserves it. I mean, I don't know what you do, same, I guess, same droppings, different toilet. I mean, hey, it doesn't change.
That's a hell of a phrase right there.
I was trying not to curse, I'm trying
That's a hell of a phrase right there.
And I was like, what word can I use? I'm like, that's the first one that came to my mind.
Droppings.
Yeah,
Droppings.
As the great philosopher Ricky Rose once said, what did I do to deserve this? When you talk about watching these Kings.
Hey, being a fan is a choice. Being a fan is a choice. You can always pick, there's 29 other teams. Just pick a new one. If it's too much, just pick a new one.
I'm gonna ride with the Kings, man. I'm gonna ride with them.
You're going, okay.
I'm gonna
die with them too.
Stick beside them.
Kings give new meaning to ride or die. Like, no, you probably gonna die. It says right there in the contract.
No, they like baby kids. They don't die, they multiply. I mean, these seasons keep piling up. You would think at some point you just get lucky, but it just keeps piling up. And
there's been a lot of talk about leadership today from Kenny. Matt Barnes, who was with us earlier, and we were just having a conversation. So I'll ask you, these guys as well as anybody. Like, why can't Harrison Barnes be the leader? Like, is that like, I listened to him. He has the clout with the team. He has the knowledge of the game. Like he's a very good ball player. He has an understanding. Like he seems to communicate it well, but we're always looking at De'Aaron. We've already talked about Tyrese. We talked about Davion being some sort of defensive spark when he was drafted. Like, why is Harrison Barnes not the guy?
I think Harrison is a leader, but it's in his own. I don't know if the way he goes about it can even affect these guys, because the one thing you can't be is fake. And if Harrison walked in there, started yelling and throwing stuff and kicking chairs on the sidelines,
like Jerry West,
the guys would laugh like that's not Harrison, And I always go back to this: these are still grown men who choose to go. Leadership is important, but in some ways, in this situation, I don't think it's about guys like say they don't have talk about leadership, but at what point do the guys in the locker room have to say, you know what, it doesn't matter who our quote leader on the court is, I've got to play better. And I think it would be disingenuous for Harrison to try to be someone he's not. And we've had this discussion with Harrison in past seasons, and Harrison's like, if I walk in there and start yelling, what's that going to do? And I think coaches have yelled at these guys. I know when, teammates have yelled and cussed them out. I continue to say, got to get new players. You just can't, you can't keep, saying, well, they just need a leader. Where's the leader at? Is he at Auburn right now? Is he at Duke? I mean, I don't know where the quote leader is, but that's not De'Aaron's personality. It's not Harrison's personality to be the vocal guy, but it's about commanding respect. Somebody once told me about Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan didn't talk a lot, but you respected him the moment you walked in the locker room by the way he went about his business on and off the court. And you just can't force that on guys. You can't tell the guy that's going to be the leader. That's the thing where guys gravitate to. And the weirdest thing, like Iman Shumpert became a leader. You know, and that wasn't because they traded for him that year. They didn't even want to play him. They didn't even want him. But something about him fit well with that group, and the guys gravitated toward him. So I just think in terms of that, in that role, that guy's just not on the team. And it's kind of hard to say ask Sabonis to do it after 3 weeks. You know, I mean, there's only so many Chris Pauls out there who can just drop in a locker room and change the culture instantly. And that guy's just not on the team right now. And I know even going back to last year, I was thinking about this, talking to when Luke was still coaching them, talked about with Phoenix, where it wasn't just, you get the players, you get a guy like Chris who comes in and establishes a culture with the players. The culture goes up and down. And, Chris can enforce the culture of the coach, and it just goes top to bottom. And right now, these guys know Alvin's not going to be here next year. Yeah. So, I mean, you're trying to get something that's probably just not going to happen. You get to this point of the year, guys are figuring, hey, I got to play to keep my job. So playing the quote right way goes out the window for, hey, I got to look out for myself. So a lot goes on in a situation like this.
Do you think that coaches can be leaders in a like a general sense? We all know the Pops, the Phil Jacksons, guys like that. They're leaders, and at the very least, Tim Duncan, Kobe, they're an extension of the coaches. But you got your Pat Rileys as well. But I don't want to say run of the mill NBA coach, but a coach that isn't one of the top 5 coaches of all time. Do you think they can be leaders in the NBA?
Yeah, I think so. I think they come in and they can, set an expectation. They can help establish the way things need to be done, provided they have the support and the stability behind them. Like in Alvin's situation, I mean, you got to, he's an interim coach. They're not playing well. I don't know what much more Alvin could do. I mean, you can make talk strategy, so on and so forth. But like I said, that locker room is not going in there thinking, yeah, we'll have Alvin next season. So there's only so much a guy like that, in my opinion, Alvin can do, because players aren't dumb. What's going to happen if you tune Alvin out? What, you'll just play for the next guy. And the precedent was set with this kind of some of these guys who have been here for a while, back with Dave Yeager. Dave wasn't easy to get along with. A lot of guys didn't like Dave, but they got better, and Dave got fired because he didn't work well with others, whether it be the teammates or, with management. So, so some of those guys I felt like kind of got the feeling like they had more of a say than they should have had. And I've said about the Kings for years, why are guys on a team that can't win influencing decisions upstairs? It's like, I don't get it. But I do think if you have the right culture, the right coach, it's not so. At the NBA, guys know everyone's plays. The scouts put everything. There aren't a lot of secrets in the league. It's about how do you manage personalities, finding the right lineups, and all those type of things. So in that regard, if the players believe in you, you are a leader. But in this league, it's a players' league. Players tune you out, it's over. The guys tuned. I don't know if I don't think they gave up on Luke this year, but they sure as hell weren't playing hard the way they could have for him at the beginning of the year. He gets fired. They show a little fire for like 5 days for Alvin. Then we're back where we were before.
And that's what I can't fit. Like, how is this thing going to turn around? Like, how does it, if a couple of moves by Monty this offseason, and he literally has to hire the perfect coach. I don't even know what that means, but he has to hand it. You've got to get the most out of De'Aaron Fox. Dude, maybe this coach has to be the guy who makes De'Aaron Fox a leader.
Which I don't know if you can do.
And so where are we going if that doesn't happen?
And here's the problem the Kings had. In order to get Sabonis, you had to give up the guy who was your natural leader. Tyrese has been a leader his whole, so they were in this weird pickle of, do we keep the guy who's the leader, but we can't move the guy with the big contract? And they chose to go with, and I'm not trying to double back and say it was a horrible decision. We don't know that yet. But that's kind of the give or take that you are in this situation. You got to find that guy.
Right.
They had a version of that guy. Whether Tyrese would have been that guy long term, we'll never know. But you just got to find the guy that can be, and De'Aaron has not been, been that guy. I don't know, and you can't make him be that guy. I don't think the guys in the locker room look at him as that guy, and that's going back to his early days, when he got drafted. No one looked at De'Aaron when he came in like, well, that was our leader. Like, that's a good player. But he wasn't viewed amongst the guys as, oh, that's going to be the leader of the team. It was going to be, he's going to be maybe the best player, but you were still trying to find that other piece who was going to be the guy who you would call the leader. The guy, and it doesn't have to be, ideally it's your best player, but they just need some guys, or 2 or 3 guys who can just establish the expectations, a guy like a Udonis Haslem, a guy who, when he walks in the locker room commands the respect, it ain't got to even be their best player, but they just need some guys like that, and where you find them, I don't know, because they also got to find a coach. They got to probably find a starting shooting guard. They got to find some wing players. They got to find a lot, and we're always in this position with them. Every year it's the same thing. You got to find 4 or 5 players, and usually every other year you got to find a coach.
What do you think is more important? Like, just at its core, I know we talk a lot about leadership and things of that nature. Talent or leadership?
Talent.
Yeah,
because talent can overcome some leadership issues, some issues. If you've got the talent. But if you're a team that doesn't have the talent or that leader, you get what you get these last couple of games where you're up 17-20, you blow the lead, and everyone's looking around like, why does this keep happening to us? There's some teams, quite honestly, like you say, you look at them, you say, top to bottom, they're not a great team, but they've got maybe 1 or 2 guys who are just so good they cover up for all that. You look at what Jokic has been playing with this year. He hasn't had Murray, basically Porter all season, but he covers up a lot for them. And so you have, to me, if I got to choose, I'm gonna take the talent and keep looking for my leader and let that talent, hide some of my flaws. And right now, they don't have the talent to hide their flaws, because part of their flaws are just playing hard and playing with effort. How many times has Alvin said, I'm gonna find guys who are gonna play with intensity, and how many coaches have said that? And I don't care if you got Phil Jackson, Popovich, Pat Riley, whoever. If the coach has got to come out and say, I need guys to prepare for the game and play with some intensity, you don't have a chance. That speaks to the core of your roster. That speaks to their makeup, and that's what's got to keep changing here, because you just can't keep bringing this thing back. You got to shake something up. And the thing is, when it comes to what they have, I think they could, Harrison's a valuable player, but, I don't think, would a team want to take De'Aaron at this point, on a max deal? Because when you bring a guy on a max deal, he's supposed to be one of your cornerstones. And this season, De'Aaron's been too up and down to be a cornerstone player. So they just got a lot to, still figure out. They just got a lot to figure out.
Man, I feel like all of that's like about preparing, I feel like we're all subtly, it's all subtle, like references to De'Aaron, because who else are we talking about?
To me, it's everyone at this point. It's everyone. I can't just De'Aaron's not the only one on the court when they're, blowing a 20-point lead.
But 3 of the 5 starters are new. So they picked up this trait the second that they got here. And the frustrating thing is it feels like they have. They just put on Kings uniforms.
It's almost like there's a cloud over Golden One. And once you put the uniform on, and I've talked to former Kings about this, they're like, they don't know what it is, but there's something about it where it's almost like there's a cloud. And once you get away from that cloud, things just feel different. And there's almost like once you get here and you've been around it so long, once things go bad, you figure, okay, here we go again. And I think one of my old OGs from Sacramento B, Jim Jenkins, said that the Kings remind him of the really bad Raider teams, where every other team would tell you, you just hang around, they'll break. You know, you don't have to really even play well, but if you're close, they're going to give the game back to you. And that's what the Kings tend to do. You know, they don't execute down the stretch. They don't, look at the Dallas game. Have no business losing the Dallas game. They lose that game. You know, you look at, this up by 20. Yeah, it was only in the first half, but still to give up 83 points in a half. That's pretty hard to do. It's hard to be that bad when you give up that many points. And this wasn't, that wasn't Steph and Clay hitting 15 threes in a half. That was Julius Randle, no disrespect, Emmanuel Quickly, and RJ Barrett. That wasn't the big three. That wasn't LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. Yeah. And the thing is about this team is they don't have a lot of margin for error. So when they don't execute correctly, when they don't give the proper amount of effort, when you just see, this is what you get. They don't have, because when you don't have the talent to cover up for those things, this is what you get.
Another aspect to that too, as well, Mike, it's not necessarily that when these guys get here, they just, go into this Sacramento malaise. It's also because they get these guys in here, in my opinion, and they ask them to do something that they're just not capable of doing. Like we look at, not saying any of us are saying this, but we talk about the other starters, Justin Holiday, Trey Lyles, I'll throw DiVincenzo in there, Jeremy Lamb. Like, how can you guys fall into this? We need leadership. Well, these guys they're like, I'm just minding my own business in the NBA. Why do you want me to come in here and average 20 points a night and shoot this 70% from the field? I've never done that, but I've also never had to take 13 shots. You know what I mean? I've taken maybe about 5 shots a game, and I do good in that. Now I'm your starting 2 guard. You need me to average 15? Like I'm not really prepared for all that. And I've
always said you can't get mad at a guy for being who he is. Why are you expecting a guy to be something that he's not? I mean, it wasn't like Trey Lyles was in Detroit getting 20 a night. He comes, oh my God, how come he's not playing better? What did you want him to do? Did you think he was going to come out here and rediscover something that everyone else is, so you can't even, that's why I say you can't even fault some of these guys for it, because, hey, some of these guys are just being asked to do too much. It goes even back to what someone would have told you about Buddy. It's like, we like Buddy if we could play him 20 to 24 minutes. If he's my starting 2 guard, he's going to be asked to do things you don't want him to do. Maybe they'd be, a guy like Rashawn, they'll say, well, what about Rashawn? Maybe he's better as your backup center. Maybe then if you say Rashawn doesn't rebound well enough, that doesn't mean as much if he's coming off the bench. If he's starting and you see 6-7 rebounds, you might feel a certain way. So a lot of times I just say, you know what? You can't ask guys who aren't to be something they aren't. So you just got to get new players and better players. That's not, you can't get mad at Davion Mitchell for being Davion Mitchell. He's a rookie. You can't be like, well, how come he's not getting me 15, 18 a night now?
Yeah.
Did you hear what Russell Westbrook said last night?
Yeah, I watched that.
What did you think of that?
I think there's times where people cross the line. I don't think the Westbrook thing is so egregious to where it's like, oh my God, I got to go look at the stands crazy because someone said Westbrook. And I mean, if you've watched the Lakers, just he's put some shots up there where you go, oh God, that bank shot of hit the glass and go in the stands. I mean, it's it's not I don't mean, then again, it's not me, but I don't think anyone's saying that to diminish his family's name. There are idiots who cross the line. There's no need to be going at his wife, calling her out of her name, or making a death threat is not funny. People, no one should take any of these games so seriously that they don't play in to where you feel like you can go somewhere and threaten another person and their family. But I think the whole part about they've been saying Westbrook for years. I do think part of it is that he's back home, so to speak, there were expectations were much higher, and people aren't happy with the result.
And he's catching the blame for it.
Yeah. And then you read some of his quotes where he says, and I get it, where he says, you know what, I'm not gonna let this stuff bother me. I got to see my kids on Christmas. I get to be back home. I'm happy. They don't want to hear that in LA. It just is, but I get what he's saying, but I don't think that I've never thought the Westbrook thing was a attack on his character. I always saw that as a thing was 100% related to him, say, shooting 5 for 17. I never took it as an attack on him as a man or his character, but that's not me. I don't have however many followers he has and a wife and children who have to go around and hear this, So I understand his frustration, and I do think people do cross the line. I never thought that what saying that was, but I can understand where he's coming from. I just don't think that of all the things that can be said to you, that's the worst thing out there.
And we know much worse has been said to him.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I understand, it's not been a good season for him.
Yeah,
he's been made the scapegoat, whether failure or not, for a myriad of their problems. And I don't think any player would want to return home to that. If you were from Sacramento, I don't know, but I don't think Marquise Chris would want to come home and get treated like that. I don't think James Harden would want to be a Laker or a Clipper and get treated like that. No one wants that. So I understand where he's coming from. I understand his frustration, but I just don't think that particular thing is a personal attack. But I understand where he's coming from. Like I said, I don't have millions of people mad at me.
Not yet.
Somebody will be mad. Somebody will be mad. Don't worry. I'm pretty sure I'll check my timeline and someone will remind me I'm a Laker fan or something. I'll tweet about playing dominoes. You're like, damn Laker fan. I'm like, okay, they suck. All right, I know that. The sun's still shining. I'm not going to lose any sleep because they don't want to win games.
Right. Well, the other thing about that with the Westbrook thing is maybe specifically with Westbrook. I mean, he may have heard worse or whatever, but how some people are. Hey, that's my name. Don't play with my name.
Yeah,
don't play with my name.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
And I'll take that better than playing with my name.
And I think that was also targeted at one specific member of the media who I don't watch the show, but I'm pretty sure on the show refuses to call him by his name. I mean, it's different if you read what his wife was saying, it's not so much she was saying, it's one thing for, basically fans, but when you have a platform and you use that platform to belittle someone, there's a difference. That was all about Skip Bayless. Let's call it what it is. So I don't think it's, so much, the fans. I mean, you're going to hear, quite honestly, after tomorrow, he'll hear it more from fans. But I think it does come across different when you have a microphone in front of you and you have people watching you on TV, listen to you on the radio. And as a grown man, you decide to call another grown man by a name that's not his name. That's disrespectful. So if that's what he's referring to, like I said, I haven't watched the show in years, but I do know that Skip, would give guys a nickname that was not their name and call them by that name. So, but to me, like I said, that's a conversation between him and that guy. I don't think the fans per se play into that. Like I said, we know Russell's been called worse than that, but I just think because like I said, he stands behind his wife. His wife didn't like it, and I wouldn't like it either.
John brings up a great point. So does that mean Kenny Capaway has come to an end?
Yeah, I'll slap the mess out of John when I see him.
I'm just saying, Kenny Capaway is one of the great names that has lived on here on Dealing with KC.
Furniture mover when I meet John.
Wow,
that's been strong. I have been waiting like 28 hours to ask you this question. I'm so excited about this. How realistic was that portrayal of Jerry West in the first episode of Winning Time?
I have been asked that question a million times, and it really depends on who you talk to about Jerry. But Jerry is notoriously has been notorious to be unhappy. Like, have you heard the stories about during that 2000 title run where he basically couldn't watch games because it aided him to watch the entire game in person? Like, he would be in the tunnel, he would have to he couldn't watch games. So I believe that some of it's dramatized a little for our entertainment, but I mean, my God, they turned my
Did
man.
he throw the MVP trophy through his?
I don't think he did. They turned Jerry into a lunatic, and then the whole line about I switched to vodka because you can't smell it. Now Jerry's at work drinking every day because he doesn't want to have to move Norm Nixon off the ball. I mean, that was my favorite part of the show. It was like, God, they made
so good.
That's what
made Jerry West into a lunatic.
It turned up when when I perked my ears up is when they're on the golf course and he kicks the ball. He just gets so mad he kicks the ball.
Turnover. He's too tall. or you know what they gave me? The MVP. It was just like we lost, nigga.
If you haven't watched the first episode of Winning Time, you have to. Like, you absolutely have to. This series is going to be something.
Yeah.
I just like seeing my guy Solomon Hughes. I've known him since we were in school together, and just seeing him as Kareem. The whole airplane scene. Can I get a picture? Because people around, like I said, what makes this show cool is that a lot of the stories we've always heard around the league are being put into a dramatic series with humor.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's hilarious. I can't wait till they get to the whole partying, drugs, and women thing. Because some of the stories I've heard about those Lakers, we can't even stay on the air.
Yeah, well, some of those stories I heard about the Lakers, I don't think you could put on that show.
That's why I want to see how they portray those. Because some of those stories, I'm like, those were my idols growing up. They did what?
Yeah, they're bad.
Yeah,
they're
I mean, it is. I can't wait just because the 80s in LA were so wild. You had the like Showtime Lakers. You had Hollywood with all the whole the nose candy. You had
crack.
They played in Inglewood. You had the crack epidemic and gang violence around the corner.
Right.
I mean, there's so much was going on in LA in the 80s, and I'm a little kid at that time going, wow, this is amazing, because the Lakers were the thing that kind of unified everyone. Everyone agreed on the Lakers. Outside of that, you didn't know what was going to happen from day to day sometimes. So this is going to be a fun thing to watch, I think.
Real quick, Jason, Dr. Buss, to me, he came across in that first episode as a real, like he was down to earth. He understood people. Like, you think back to
he was the baby face.
Yeah. You think back to that scene when Magic is meeting with Jack Cook and Cook is about to blow the whole thing. And Jerry's like, hey, let's get him a burger. I'll take care of him. I'm going to go walk him out. All that other stuff. I didn't really know that about Jerry. Like, I didn't think he was a bad guy, but I didn't know he was just like real, like he was a leader, right? He made sure everybody was taken care of and okay. Is that about accurate with Jerry?
Sure, that's accurate, yeah, because there's a reason why a lot of guys say he's the greatest owner ever. I mean, you got to remember, in that time, owners and players didn't really, hang out and talk like that with each other. And at one point, that was a source of friction with the Lakers and Magic, because the vets were like, hey, kid, we don't hang out with ownership. What are you doing? But Jerry, that's one of the reasons why the guys who came through there loved Jerry Buss. Because he did a thing where he told Michael Cooper. I've seen this story where he told Michael Cooper basically, "Hey, you won't be on the team next year. That we got to move on, but we've got a job for you whenever you want." And he created the title of special assistant to give Michael Cooper a job, because he promised Michael Cooper a job. So and that's why some of the things you hear about the Lakers now are so troubling to people. Like the whole idea that Jerry West has his lifetime tickets revoked. Like, Dr. Buss wouldn't have done that. There's people who will tell you that it wouldn't have been that way with Dr. Buss. It's because he really was about people. At the end of the day, he was about people and entertainment, and the people who I've always talked to about him all tell you the same thing, that he, in terms of owners, team owners, he was the best. Especially when you're in LA and the other option was Donald Sterling. I mean, even that scene in the show where Donald Sterling.
feeling up Magic. Oh, you gotta.
That's so gross yet funny because Donald Sterling really did stuff like that.
They set the table for so much in that first episode.
Yeah. Donald Sterling really. I've talked to guys who played on those teams. Donald Sterling did stuff like that. He practiced at a middle school. I mean, you hear stories about Sterling where this hotel team couldn't stay at for years because he never paid the bill.
Oh, come on, man.
Wow.
Come on.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, so they put so much on the table in that first episode.
Yeah.
Norm Nixon. I love they got Norm Nixon's son playing Norm Nixon.
Yeah.
I didn't know he did Magic like that though in the one-on-one game. Oh yeah.
I don't know if maybe that didn't really happen. I don't care.
That's what Magic is talking about when he said he's not happy with how the season. That didn't happen to me.
No, I think Magic. I think Magic's going to be really unhappy in about 3 or 4 episodes. That's what I think. I mean, they started the series with like, hey, they basically acknowledged, yep, we'll address it. Just the first scene. It's like, yeah, no, we're not going to ignore it. We know how he got to this doctor's office. You'll see it here on this show.
We know. So I mean, there's going to be a lot, and one other guy I want to see how they play is if they do it all is AC Green.
Yes.
We got to get an AC Green. We have bets on who's going to take his when he's going to lose his virginity. We got to get that in there. We got to get AC Green in there.
I'm so excited for this series, and I'm excited that you're writing about it.
Imagine AC Green being dropped out of Vacation Bible School to that team.
Oh man, that's Jason Jones, the professor. Jason Jones of The Athletic.
Speaking of AC Green.
You need Jesus. Yes, indeed. AC Green needed something else. He had Jesus. We appreciate you, Jason.
All right.
Good luck with Russell Wilson, by the way. So long.
Leave me alone.
Yeah. See, look, we were laughing, having fun, and look at you. You ruined my man's day. Why would you do that?
We were doing fine. We didn't need to bring that up.
Jason, we got to go. We love you, brother. We appreciate you.